Politics now, and explosive new details concerning Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer and longtime personal fixer. Two different legal filings were released today. One was a sentencing memo from federal prosecutors in New York. The other, a filing from special counsel Robert Mueller and his ongoing Russia investigation. The New York filing is connected to Cohen's financial crimes and campaign violations, such as evading taxes, paying hush money to an adult film star on Donald Trump's behalf. The prosecutors are asking for a, quote, substantial jail term for Cohen, up to 63 months. That's more than 5 years in prison. Last week, Cohen also pleaded guilty to a separate charge by Mueller's office that he lied to Congress. Now, this charge is connected to unsuccessful efforts to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. The development deal could have brought the Trump Organization hundreds of millions of dollars from Russian sources. Robert Mueller did not take a position on what sentence Cohen should receive for lying to Congress, but he said in his memo that Cohen has made substantial efforts to help the special counsel's ongoing criminal investigations, including information about Russians attempting to reach the Trump campaign as early as 2015. So to talk more about what these documents reveal about the Russia investigation, I'm joined now by David Sklansky, a former federal prosecutor and now a law professor at Stanford University in California. And in Washington, we have John Flannery, also a former federal prosecutor. Hello. And now a principal with the law firm of Campbell Flannery. Thank you very much both for being with us tonight. So I want to start with Michael Cohen. He's, of course, pleaded guilty, as we say, to the tax evasion, bank fraud, campaign finance violations, most recently lying to Congress. This substantial term of imprisonment that's being called for, are you surprised by that? And do you think Michael Cohen is surprised by that?
Are you asking me?
Either one, weigh in.
Okay, well, no, I'm not surprised. The original agreement in August suggested, well, you could have 65 years, but the sentencing guidelines in America are supposed to give some guidance as compared to what others are getting, what you should get. Cohen's attorneys, in my opinion, went a little too light, suggesting that he should not spend any time in jail or prison. And 4 to 5 years, which is about the range that they decided on the sentencing guidelines, is what they asked for. And you have a feeling there's kind of a good cop, bad cop thing going on. The Southern District, because he didn't cooperate fully and say he would talk about everything, thought that they had to say, as a matter of policy, I believe, and as a matter of law, that he couldn't get full cooperation, but he had made contributions, and they wanted the court to acknowledge that, and that might mean he'd get closer to the 4 years. The plea that involved the Russian investigation by the special counsel's office, in that case, they were very comfortable with what he did, and maybe I won't say enthusiastic, but they gave good examples of what he did. But they also said what he had done wrong, which they came in first and he lied about what happened. But after he entered his plea in the Southern District of New York, then he told them what was going on there. They thought that contribution was substantial, that he should get credit for it. I think it's a significant day, and I think that the watchword in the White House is something like May Day.
David?
I agree with that. I don't think that the recommendation was particularly surprising. I think the reason that the Southern District of New York called for a stiffer sentence is that they were looking for a different kind of cooperation from him than the special counsel's office was looking for. The Southern District wanted full cooperation. They wanted Michael Cohen to come in and make a clean breast of any illegality he had anything to do with at any time in New York, and he wasn't willing to do that. That's not what the special counsel's office was looking for. They wanted help with their inquiry into ties between the Trump campaign and the Russians, and along those lines, Cohen seems to have done everything that the special counsel's office could have wanted him to do.
John, do you think that, do you think for Cohen that this could have been maybe worse? I mean, did he...
Oh, yeah, it could have been worse. If he didn't cooperate at all, it would have been worse. And he is cooperating with various state and other agencies in New York, which could involve indictments against a variety of people, state indictments, which would be untouchable, if you will. from any pardon that Trump might exercise. But I think Trump is such a selfish individual, the only person he ever wants to be pardoned is himself. And I think that we're at a point where Mueller is at ramming speed, and I think that's one of the reasons why we don't see more details. But we do see some fleshing out suggesting that this investigation has independent evidence from Cohen to make the case that they need to make if they go to court or when they go to court. And I think the only question is who will be up first.
Yeah, David, let's talk about
I
some of
agree
those
with
details.
that.
Page 5 here, they talk about the 7 sessions that Cohen has spent, some of them lengthy, with the special, with the investigators and looking into the Russia probe. How important is this kind of information that we're getting in this document? David?
I think it's really important, and the most significant news that came out today wasn't about Michael Cohen, although obviously from his perspective the sentencing recommendation is critical, but both the pleading from the special counsel's office and the sentencing memo from the Southern District of New York contain pretty damaging information linking Cohen to the president and to other people in the administration. The Southern District filing says that Cohen has admitted that he spoke with Donald Trump about the secret payments that he made to Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels to buy their silence, which were in effect illegal campaign contributions. The filing from the special counsel's office says that Cohen has told the special counsel that he was aware of, because he was party to, multiple efforts by Russians to make contact with the Trump camp during the campaign.
I think that is important. And one of the things I'd add that I'm sure we both know, it's nice to have two lawyers that recognize the way the law is and who are in agreement. There was a tape recording in September in which Trump is sitting down with Cohen, and that was kind of a tipping point in the investigation and to tilt, if you will, Cohen toward cooperation and to show the weakness of the president. The additional filing that we have today, which came late in the evening, is it outlines the lies that Manafort told. In other words, he was like a Trojan horse. He was inside and cooperating and carrying back what he knew while he was lying to the investigators. That's pretty amazing and quite unprecedented. And we've seen lawyers in past investigations that end up either being the good lawyers or the bad lawyers, and we already have a couple of failures in regard to the bad lawyers. And what's going on here is pretty damaging stuff. Shows consciousness of guilt.
If I could just, I do agree with that. And I just want to point out that, you know, we can get blasé about some things during the Trump era that we shouldn't be. I think in any previous administration, even if there was nothing in these filings that directly implicated the president, just the fact that these are the kinds of people that he associated with him, that himself with, that his close personal lawyer and the head of his campaign are people who have lied and lied repeatedly to private individuals, to banks, and to Congress, and to investigators from the executive branch of the federal government.
Right. So the thing is, all of this matters because, as you say, the possible implications to Donald Trump. From both the filings on Paul Manafort and the Cohen filings today, what are the implications for the U.S. president, aside from his associations, as you point out, David, with quote, liars, political, legal implications for him, John?
Well, I think the watchword here is pain. In 2015, there was kind of a Matahari from Russia, Butina, B-U-T-I-N-A, who asked a question of Trump in 2015, which was, could you get along with Russia? And the thing he said was that he was concerned, we don't need these sanctions. And why didn't he want them? Because he wanted to build the Trump Tower in Moscow, they call it the Trump Project, and the bank, which had sanctions, couldn't do that deal. So what I didn't appreciate until recently was that he profited from the sanctions being lifted as well as Putin. And so it wasn't just about trading help in the election to get elected. It was also to be elected and to lift the sanctions so that Trump could get his tower while being president and the autocrats in Russia could also be free. And that's very dramatic. So he's deep into it, and I think that we've seen the steps toward this position. So we have Russians in three parts, I think. The special prosecutors put together 2 indictments of the 3. 1, they put in place the machinery to do all the stealing of government documents. 2, they then put together the machinery to dispose of it and to send it out there through WikiLeaks and other ways. And the third part is the one that we're waiting for, and that's going to tie the Russians to the Americans in the campaign of Mr. Trump for presidency, and it looks like him as well. And that is exciting because finally the republic might be restored.
David?
I think it's very damaging for the president, and it's not clear what the political costs will be for him, but he's clearly very worried about it. You know, trial lawyers have an expression: when the facts are against you, talk about the law. When the law is against you, talk about the facts. And when the facts and the law are against you, pound the table. Well, Trump kind of has changed that to just pound the table all the time. But even by Trumpian standards, the tweet storm in advance of these pleadings, I think, indicated that he was quite concerned, that he feels that he needs to discredit the Mueller investigation. There's no legitimate basis on which to discredit it, so he's pounding the table.
So today, a very busy day in terms of this Russia investigation. We had the Cohen filings, Manafort submissions, George Papadopoulos released from his 2-week sentence in prison. Very quickly from both of you, what are you looking for next here? John, let's start with you.
Well, I think what we're looking for is a combination of indictments and maybe a report. One of the biggest debates that we have about Mr. Trump is whether or not he can be indicted. I believe that he can be constitutionally and otherwise. I believe that the constitutional remedies separately provide for impeachment to remove one for office and prosecution to prosecute him for a crime. The one example that we have of this is Vice President Agnew. During the Nixon administration, he was prosecuted while vice president, and his lawyer argued very strongly that he couldn't be indicted unless he'd been impeached, and the court decided otherwise. The adverse opinions come from the Justice Department, but in the Whitewater investigation involving Mr. Clinton, there was an opinion that Clinton could be indicted, and in addition, they thought it was stronger if the conduct happened not while they were in the presidency, but while they were, quote, a citizen or running for office.
David, what are you expecting to see next?
Well, I'm expecting to see more investigation. There have been reports in the last couple of weeks that Mueller might be wrapping up, that he's talked to everybody that he needs to talk to. I don't think that's true. After reading the pleading in the Manafort case, much of which is redacted, it's clear that Mueller believes that there is an ongoing investigation that he wants to protect, that there are people yet to be charged who haven't yet been charged. So I don't think we're in the last stage of this investigation yet.
2 former federal prosecutors helping us to make sense of today's court filings in the U.S. David Sklansky, John Flannery, thanks so much for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.